Kia ora, and welcome to the Beer Jerk Beer of the Week podcast. I'm Luke.
Can you believe it? It's Luke, and I'm Matt.
I am Luke. Yeah, I've been away for a while.
Yeah, ages.
Yeah, drank some good beers though.
Yeah, like, you keep going on about Kolsch.
Yeah, Kolsch probably the highlight. We should probably do do you remember we used to do a podcast?
Yeah, I do remember we used to do a podcast.
We should do a podcast about my Euro trip.
Yeah, with copious free time, yeah.
Yeah, all on hands. And we should do a podcast about Beervana.
Yes, we should.
That was fun.
Yeah, it was good to see a bunch of you jerks as at the stands and as we were walking around.
Yeah, thanks for popping by to see our...
Hello again to you all.
yeah, both our stands. We had the American stand like we usually do and the Trans-Tasman Collaboration Hall, which was a big project to pull together.
Yeah, so 20 taps on at Beervana, which was a bit of wrangling involved in that, but we got there, served some great beers. We had some AleSmith, Mother Earth, Pontoon, and Deschutes on at the American stand.
With a couple of Fork and Brewer collaborations.
Yep, a couple of Fork and Brewer collaborations, and 24 different breweries involved in the Trans-Tasman stand, and really happy with the quality of everything actually. It was obviously for us the American beers arrived as is traditional two days before the event. And the Trans-Tasman beers arrived to the event fresh from the brewery, so it was our first chance to try all of the beers, and really happy with the quality and the range and just the diversity that we managed to get from all our lovely collaboration partners on the Trans-Tasman stand was really cool to see.
Yeah, 12 seriously fantastic beers, really wide variety of styles, but all of them just absolutely nailed it.
And stuff that we haven't seen before, as well as some favourites just done well, like the cold black double IPA from Alibi and Bracket.
Beautiful.
The Plum Lichtenheiner from 8 Wide and Rocky Ridge. So some super interesting stuff.
That was when I was pouring, that was one of the most popular beers. People were really loving it, which you'd think a smoky sour plum beer might be a bit weird for people. I guess you're at Beervana, you're after the weird stuff, right?
People after weird stuff, and yeah, for me it was the same. That went really well. But yeah, a bunch of highlights in that box. So we do still have some of those mixed cases left. So if you didn't make it to Beervana and we didn't see you down there, or you didn't make it to the stand, if you want to try that selection, we're shipping those this week. So you should be able to grab a box and see what you missed out on. Yeah,
order fast. Those will not be around for long. And if you're in Australia, head to the Carwin Cellars website, because they're doing the same thing with all of the Aussie brewed versions of the beer, which is pretty awesome. And if you're in Melbourne, I don't know if we have any Melbourne viewers, but it's this Saturday or this Friday, this weekend at Carwin Cellars. They're launching all those beers. They've got a crazy tap lineup of other beers from their collaboration partners as well, and Kiwi Kai food trucks. So if you happen to be in Melbourne, check that out too. Next weekend, we're going to be pouring all the beers right here at the Fridge and Flagon. So you'll see more details about that online, and we'll remind you next week. But we should probably get on to last week's beer and this week's beer. So it's a pair of beers. Yeah, we had grand plans to shoot a video while we were setting up for Beervana for last week. Yeah. But then it turns out we were setting up for Beervana, so I didn't do it. So first of all, we're going to kick off with this beer, which is What Can the Harvest Hope For? So What Can the Harvest Hope For is a collaboration between Small Gods and 3 New Zealand ingredient suppliers. So that is Gladfield Malt, Freestyle Hops, and Froth Yeast from Canterbury, Nelson, and Wellington respectively. And the idea behind these beers was to really showcase the quality and just the brilliance of these New Zealand ingredient suppliers. Not too much for another beer now. So for this beer, we went to Gladfield Malt, and they suggested we use their German Pilsner malt.
Okay, so the German Pilsner is a malt that we brought out a few years ago when we noticed that some of the brewers were wanting a less malt forward flavoured malt, so that it wasn't competing against the hops when they added to the beer. So we just tweaked the cooling process really, that's about all there is, the only difference really. Just less recirculation during different phases of the kilning process, and therefore we don't get that real malty flavour coming through, and it's more neutral and gives a good base for those hop forward beers.
For this beer, so it's a really nice, clean, bright, simple Pilsner base, as a Pilsner should be.
Presents beautifully in the glass.
Yeah.
Lovely and nice.
Prost! Prost! And then our friends at Freestyle Hops suggested we use Mochueka And Motjueke is a derivative of Sards, which is a classic German noble hop. So again, really right in keeping for a Pilsner. And then our buddies at Froth Yeast hooked us up with some of their crisp lager yeast. Decided to go through a proper lager fermentation, long cold lagering period. And yeah, really happy with the job that they did.
Just in case anyone's new around here, you might be a little bit confused. So while Matt and I are the beer jet guys, we're also the small gods guys. So this is our beer, we probably keep saying.
Sorry, keep saying us.
Us and our beer. Yeah, so I've always been a huge fan of Pilsner. To be honest, I'm a massive fan of all of the traditional German styles.
If you haven't figured that out yet from our previous videos. So.
I'll leave my chat about all of the German beers that I drank over the last few weeks for the podcast that will come one day. But I love a good, clean, crisp, hoppy German Pilsner. And it is traditionally Saaz, it's those European noble hops. So when we worked with Freestyle Hops and they just chatted to us about the difference between early harvest and late harvest, and we sniffed a few samples of the hops, we were just amazed at what a huge difference it makes. And really, to me, this tastes, it's got a lot of that, I suppose, just the peppery bite of a good noble hop.
Well, yeah, it's that classic German noble hop character. But with the New Zealand climate, obviously the New Zealand hops have their own unique terroir. So even more specifically, we worked with Freestyle Hops on something that they're really keen to showcase, which is the difference in the same hop picked early and late in the harvest. So we'll see this again. We'll have a bit of a chat about this again when we get to the pale ale. But this is using early harvest Motjueke, where it exhibits more of that traditional noble hop character and a real kind of nice, kind of limey hop note to it. It's got a real cool citrus edge. Nice bit of finish, and crisp, makes you want to go back for more. It's a New Zealand Pilsner in the truest sense. 100% New Zealand ingredients, hoppier than a traditional German style, but still with hops that are derivative of those noble hops. So we wanted to really showcase what a properly brewed Pilsner can be like.
And the yeast?
Yeah, the yeast, again, it's a derivative, I believe it's a derivative of the Weinheit Stefana 3470 strain. But I will need to check that with the Froth guys, so we might edit that out.
G'day, Simon and Ryan here, coming to you from Froth Technologies in Lower Hutt.
We're really excited to be part of these collaboration brews with Small Gods, Gladfield and Freestyle, celebrating the awesome brewing ingredients made right here in our own backyard.
Here at Froth Technologies, we actually grow liquid yeast cultures for the brewing industry, and that's the part that we've had to play in these special brews. And the New Zealand Pilsner, what can the harvest hope for? It's fermented using our German lager strain, Crisp. This is a strain that originates from Germany, from the Wellington brewery in Bavaria. It's your classic bottom fermenting lager strain, lower esters, and a crisp and clean profile that can allow you to enjoy those quaffable New Zealand hop aromas.
And it was lagered for an extended period, so that's why it's so sort of crisp and clean, dry finish. And I think it's a really good Pilsner. I think we've done a good job for a first effort. And I was chatting to a brewer friend just about an hour ago that just dropped some beers off here. And it's really fun, and what we would love doing is experimenting and trying new things, doing culinary inspired beers. But these German brewers, they've been making beers like this for 1,000 years. And that's how you really perfect a thing. So yeah, I'd love to one day just have a house Pilsner on our small brew kit. And just every time we brew it, just tweak it and perfect it, and
keep it in a horizontal lagering tank and
stuff. Yeah, absolutely.
So the other thing you might notice about these beers is the artwork that we've gone for. And what we went for is we contacted the suppliers of the ingredients, again, Gladfield, Freestyle and Froth, and asked them to provide us with some photos of the origin of the ingredients. So each of these beers has 3 labels One showing the from Gladfield, showing the barley fields where the barley for this this beer is grown. One from Gladfield, one from Freestyle, sorry, showing the hop garden where the hops are harvested, and one from Froth, which is actually a photo of the very yeast that's in this beer. So they took when they sent the beer off to the brewery, and they took a slide of the same yeast cells, and so this is the yeast prior to fermentation. And yeah, so it's really nice to be able to visually see this is where the harvest comes from.
Yeah, it's a little bit like this is early in the process and this is during harvest, and obviously with the yeast you can see there's been some cell division, so there's more yeast there, and I think maybe most drinkers won't even notice, they'll just think there's some pretty labels, but for us it's really cool that this is the field where the malt came from, and it's, you know, this is the field where the hop garden where the hops were grown. For us, yeah, it's a really cool project to have been able to pull together with 6 different labels on 2 beers.
Yeah. So
what's this?
Talking of 2 beers, this is the Care of the Reaper Man. The names of these beers are derived from a Terry Pratchett passage, which I love. Small Gods itself being a Terry Pratchett reference, which is it's quite a long passage, so you can look it up. But it's begging the question, what can the harvest hope for if not for the care of the Reaper Man? And the care of the Reaper Man being the really showcasing the care and attention that all the ingredient suppliers and so many people in the supply chain who don't get enough recognition put into making the quality beers that we're able to drink.
Well, you did just miss a key part. So it's a quote by Death in the book Reaper Man. So it's Death talking about harvesting souls, of course.
Yeah.
But we're not talking about harvesting souls, but we're maybe the souls of yeast. I don't know if single cell organisms have souls. Deep in a discussion.
We'll leave that one for now.
But a real shout out to all the people behind the beer in our glass. You know, it's while beer is perceived to be more an industrial product than wine, I suppose. It is in a way, but it also isn't, and especially not the sort of beers that little breweries like Small Gods make. These are really small batches, and we work really closely with farmers.
Yeah, absolutely. And I had the pleasure of catching up with Doug and Gabby from Gladfield down at Beervana, and they're really excited to be able to showcase the malts that went into this beer, and they've got teams of people who are harvesting and kilning and drying, and at Freestyle, the people who are stringing up the hops and harvesting them and doing all the sensory perception to get to breed the right varieties. So it's really nice to be able to showcase those suppliers in a beer like this.
And any of you that have followed along with our Small Gods brewing journey over the last couple of years will know that we're all about collaboration, and that's just because you end up with results that are better than the sum of their parts. And Matt and I are curious, and we love learning. So to actually have conversations with all of these growers and suppliers about what is best for the beer. And that is the lovely thing about the sort of the independent craft beer industry in New Zealand. It's a really small world. Everyone knows everybody, and you can pick up the phone to anybody and ask questions. And you know, recently people have been phoning us up, which is just what an honour when a brewer phones us up to ask about, you know, some sort of adjunct ingredient. And everyone is so generous with their knowledge. Nothing's really a secret.
Yeah, so speaking of not a secret,
we've
actually, if you look at the labels, we've published the list of ingredients that have gone into this beer. So starting out with the malt, again, Gladfield have hooked us up with the recipe for this, for the malt base, and it uses their American ale malt, which is one of their core base malts. It's a really nice, simple, slightly toasty, bready malt. That is a really nice kind of one step up from their Pilsner malt, which has a bit more character. And then we use a percentage of their Supernova malt. Now, Gabby at Gladfield was really keen to hero this malt because it's often used in red ales and kind of richer, darker beers. But she wants to make the point known that the Supernova malt can be really great for pale ale.
The American ale is very similar, just darker colour. It's the same sort of process as the German Pilsner, but a slightly higher colour. But the Supernova is the exciting one. One of the things I noticed over the years going around and drinking a lot of IPAs and what have you, is brewers are very willing to use crystal malt. Sometimes I felt they use a wee bit too much and you get a wee bit of that chloe sort of a caramelly flavour coming through at the end, and so I felt that a more drier malt coming through with a drier finish would just help that, but still give you that lovely colour and hue that you're after, give you the same mouthfeel and head retention, but without that real sickly sort of sweet flavour at the end. So the sugars are just slightly more fermentable than what they would be for in a crystal malt. So yeah, I thought the Supernova was a product that probably people don't quite understand as well as they could, and I think it's got a lot of opportunity out there.
And I'm really happy with this beer. I'm almost happier with this beer than any other beer that we've done. There may be a couple of big imperial exceptions, but I'm really stoked with just that character in the malt base. It's clean and it's bright. It's got a bit of toffee character, a bit of bread, and it's got a kind of a chewy characterfulness to the malt, but it's bright, and then it gets out of the way to allow the hops to sing, and it's something I'm really happy with.
Yeah, just the absolute best quality ingredients taken from very single clear origins. You end up with a fantastic beer. It's all the parts that you need. You know, you ask any great chef, and it's all about the ingredients as well as the process. I suppose nothing in this beer has been rushed. It's been so considered.
Yeah.
And as our first pale ale,
Yep.
could not be happier with how this came out.
Yeah, I've definitely drunk more of this than any other Small Gods beer we've made. Normally I take home a bit when it comes out, and just like immediately came back and bought another 12 pack, and then went away for a weekend and took another 12 pack away. But yeah, so the hops in this one. Now, touching on this again, the really cool thing is, once again, the hops in this are Motueka, and from the same farm, but harvested late in the harvest. So
Totally different.
It's a completely different.
Tastes like a different
character.
hop.
And it's really that kind of classic Sarts character, that noble hop character has faded away. The limes moved to the background. There's still a bit of citrusiness to it, but you've got this really nice kind of popping tropical papaya note, which kind of is so so clear, and it's coming through really cleanly as a completely different character from the same hop, and just processed differently. So again, that's just showing how the care of these ingredient suppliers, the sensory perception about when to harvest, and the thought to go into like, okay, well, to harvest some early when it's got that lime note that we like, and harvest some late when it's got the papaya note, and to communicate with us to allow us to showcase that difference it's really exciting, and I love it.
And it's the result of serious intergenerational knowledge and trial and error and experimentation. You don't just plant some vines in a field and then hope for the best. Real work has gone into it. And to me, I suppose, just in my mind, how I think about the hop character in both different beers, this is almost like if you have a peach that's been left on the tree for so long, there's a slight, almost over ripeness.
Yeah,
and
right.
that works nicely with the sweetness of the malt in this. Yeah, it just really pulls it together.
Yeah. And then that's been fermented with again from Froth, their buddy yeast.
Hi there. The Care of the Reaper Man Pale Ale was fermented using our American ale yeast we call Buddy. We gave it this name because it really is a brewer's best friend, and because we love a good yeast pun. This American ale strain is one that's used around the world for a variety of styles, from pale ales and IPAs through to American style stouts and even pseudo lagers. It's because it has really consistent performance and a nice neutral ester profile, meaning that it lets the hops and malt really shine in the brews it's used in.
Which I believe is a USO5 or Chico variant. I think USO5 is, I don't know if this is true at all, but it's one of the most popular yeast strains in the world, originating from the Sierra Nevada Brewery in California. Sierra Nevada, obviously, the iconic American Pale Ale, which really kickstarted one of the beers that kickstarted the whole craft beer revolution. And it's just a nice, clean, bright yeast character that does the job, gets out of the way, and produces really nice, tasty pale ales. And it's one of the most versatile yeasts as well. You can use it anywhere. But it's really fantastic to have a local yeast lab. So Froth have only been operating for a few years now, and they're the first commercial yeast lab in New Zealand. So another exciting thing about these beers is it's now possible to produce beers using 100% New Zealand ingredients, New Zealand grown malt, New Zealand grown hops, New Zealand grown yeast, and really keeping it local.
Here at Froth, we're really excited to play a part in 100% Kiwi beers just like these ones, and can't wait to get our hands on a couple of cold frothies.
Give 'em a taste of kiwi.
And it's really exciting to see those guys going from strength to strength, providing big liquid pictures. They work a lot with a bunch of breweries around the country. They're scaling up, trying to figure out packaging for homebrew quantities of yeast as well, because healthy yeast is key to making great beer, and having a local producer who's putting care and attention into providing high cell counts for really vigorous fermentation to produce clean beers, it's really great to see, and we're really excited to see what they come up with next. And they've been doing some bioprospecting for wild yeasts. I think they're not ready to, they haven't been fully happy with the commercial viability of any of that yet, but it's really cool to hear about those projects that they've got going on.
Really exciting.
And the different strains that they're trying to produce locally to really, I think they're probably not far off, maybe a couple of years of completely taking over the yeast supply for most of the breweries in New Zealand, unless there's something really weird you're trying to do with something super unusual. But they've already got a great range of commercial yeasts, and it's going to be cool to see what they can do on the homebrew scale soon as well for jerks like me who like to brew at home, as well as tinkering around commercially.
So cheers to the growers, and cheers to the producers. This is really an homage to all the people that are behind everything that goes into your beer, even before it gets to the brewery.
Yeah. And cheers to you, Jack.
Cheers to you, jerks. It's almost Father's Day, so if you know any dads in your life, head to the Beer Shop website. We've got a couple of really nice gift packs. You could buy them. Maybe the Trans-Tasman box, if that's still available. But we've done a cool box with like a beer glass and some jerky in it, so do not forget to get a dad in your life a present, and they probably want some beer, right?
Based on my dadding experience, all dads love beer.
Yeah, 100%.
100% of the dads who work at Beer Jerk love beer.
Cold fact.
Cold.
Cheers, jerks.
Cheers,
See you next time.
See ya.